All right, welcome to our top 8 Megadraft for the Streets of New Capenna League. We're going to be following Caleb's draft as we go through all 8 sets in Standard, starting with Streets of New Capenna. With me is Mitchell, who's going to mention the other participants in this draft as we see Caleb's first pick, which doesn't require much explanation, the Workshop War Chief.
Yeah, hello everyone. Mitchell, aka Spaghetti Mitch. So I'll just give a rundown on the 8 competitors here real quick. We have 4 Obscura out of the 8: Cody Race, Sawyer T, Adam S, and Caleb G. We got 2 Riveteers: Chris P, Erickson L. We have the Lone Cabaretti, Emmett F, and my teammate Kyle W as the only broker. Maestros shut out of the top 8. Close. Yeah. They had someone in team.
Yeah, and this was our biggest league yet, so it's really, really a huge accomplishment. And both Kyle and Erickson are in their first leagues, so even bigger accomplishment. So just to touch on this Streets of New Capenna pack, these 3-color cards and 2-color cards, particularly the 3-color cards, I think go down in value quite a bit because they're going to be harder to make work in a deck. Whereas in Capenna, when you're just drafting New Capenna, you take a 3-color gold card, you can make it work. Here, it's a lot bigger of a risk to take a 3-color card. It has to be really, really powerful.
Yeah, it's hard to start off with those multicolors in any set here, but Workshop War Chief is among the better cards you're going to find in the fine color.
Yeah, that's a bomb. I know Caleb's made the top 8 many times. This is his 7th one. He's going after his first league win this time. So I know in the past he's sort of favored in these mega drafts. So these green-based, often salty-colored, sort of mid-range decks, grind out value, card draw, ramp, recursion, and just like big creatures. So sort of like when the dust settles, have the biggest creature, have a recursion loop, just be able to take over a game once he's cleared out the threats on the other side. I know he's gravitated towards that those type of builds in the past, particularly green-based decks. And he's just taking what seems to be the best card in each pack so far. Workshop War Chief, then the Murder, which was probably the best card in the pack, and then this Elegant Entourage. So, this Alliance, this is a mechanic that works with every set. Every set has creatures. Yes. So some of the other mechanics might be harder to work into a coherent strategy in this mega draft where you're drafting 8 different sets, but you're always going to have creatures entering the battlefield. So Alliance is always going to be good.
I know they're starting with Streets of New Capenna, which is obscenely tempo-based compared to the other sets, but with this top 8 mega draft, 60-card draft, that mindset's going to have to go away a little bit. The decks are not going to care too much about these tempo plays like they've been used to in the league. This late game value is more of a thing.
Yes, here's an interesting spot, because you look at this pack, and the best card in this pack on power level is the Disciplined Duelist. If this was a new Capenna draft, it would have probably already been taken from the pack. It would probably be taken in the first 3 picks. But how likely are you to be straight 3 colors in a mega draft? Probably never. How likely are you to be splashing a 3-drop? Like also not that likely, even if you are just 2 colors and want to splash that. So the value of those cards go down, even though Disciplined Duelist, the power level is through the roof on that card for an uncommon. That card could easily be a rare, just with no changes to it.
Yeah, I've seen way too many of those on turn 3 in this league.
Yeah. So it looks like he's looking at this Racer's Ring, the land. A lot of these cards are pretty middling power level. Now he's switched over to the Disciplined Duelist. So he has gone for the power level here over potentially a fixer, which he was considering. So he has decided that card is just enough better than everything else that it's worth taking this early. They are drafting 8 packs to build a 60-card deck, so there's lots of wiggle room.
I was going to mention, this is an 8-pack draft, so by my math, they're drafting 120 cards, of which they're going to put 35 in their deck. I think that there's a lot of room to take lands here.
Oh yeah, lands.
There's a lot of room to take lands. Yeah,
lands are good, and just you could speculate a lot in the early picks. Just take the best cards. And he's decided that the Disciplined Duelist was a lot better than everything else, and even though 3 colors, worth taking there this early. Because that's
Reason
a
why lines coming being so easy to pick up is important is maybe they'll get easier splashes if you pick up you can like second pick an Evolving Wilds in some pack or some
yeah.
other fixing
So this is an
line.
interesting one here, the Jetmir's Fixer. Another
Mhm.
a powerful gold card, but not really a card you would ever really want to splash. Whereas Disciplined Duelist is a card you would splash if you're playing any 2 of the colors. You could probably make it work. So maybe it has been said many times, and it's been proven by fact that Gruul has been a very good
Yeah,
performer in these mega drafts. It's just have the
yeah.
biggest creatures, have pump spells, have some burn spells, and just beat people to death while they're playing their greedy decks. Gruul has been done very well, so maybe he's got an eye on that. I
Yeah,
know it's
it's
happened before
overperformed.
that other drafters have come in with that mindset that see what happens, but have an eye on Gruul and have an eye early on it. Let's see what he decides on here in this pack.
Parcel wouldn't be a terrible pickup in any deck. I don't know if wouldn't be ecstatic about it,
I
but
think with how powerful some of the other fixers are in other sets, and how many lands there are running around in all these sets, a Parcel's almost never going to make the cut. I don't think. So he's going for the Maestro's Theater here, which does not fix for green. Fixes for the Grixis colors, red, black, or blue.
we have many
Yeah.
packs to go. Perhaps he'll be
Oh, yeah.
in.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I wouldn't have been surprised if he went with Riveteer's Charm there also, because that card's a powerful one too, and it goes with all the cards he has so far except for the Disciplined Duelist. So here's another
no respect
Disciplined
for the dueling.
Duelist. I think a lot of people are just being really shy on these 3 color cards, because that was a pick 8. So he was the last one to see that pack. So everybody else in this pod passed on a Disciplined Duelist, and he's saying if nobody wants it, I'll take it. It's not a
You
Streets
can
of
tell
Nuka
that
Penna draft. You're not going to be fighting over brokers with your neighbor.
you can tell people already know this is not a Streets of Nuka Penna draft, even though it
Oh
looks
yeah.
at like it for the first pack.
Have you ever seen a pick 8 Disciplined Duelist in a Nuka Penna draft in pack 1?
Nope.
Don't think so. Same with Cormella, right?
Yep.
That's another powerful card that would be gone by this point in a draft already. He's just going to take that as the most powerful card. Like, it's early enough. Unless he's playing 5 color, these cards are not all going to be in the same deck. But I think he's played 5 color before in a top 8 in a mega draft. So it's not a territory he's completely unfamiliar with, and he'll play what he thinks is going to win. And if that means playing all the colors and he can make it work, then he'll do it.
I imagine the fixing in the next 7 packs is going to be snatched up quicker than normal, seeing as you're only getting 35 of your cards in your
Yeah,
deck that are not land.
he's gone for Warm Welcome here, which ended up it looked good before the set and ended up not being as good as it looked to be. It turned out that the set
Yeah.
was just a lot more powerful. There was a lot better things you could do. In other sets, something like Warm Welcome would have been kind of a staple common, but Nuka Penna ended up being just a little weaker than what you were doing most of the time.
Yeah, it's a good pickup
But in this
for
format,
this.
yeah, in this format it could be good, especially if you have high value creatures like he has the Workshop War Chief, and we'll probably pick up some good creatures going forward. Take Paragon of Modernity there as an artifact. If he's playing lots of colors and has a lot of ramp, he might throw that in as just a threat that can grow to be very, very large. But usually mega drafts, your card quality is going to be a bit higher than what Paragon of Modernity provides.
I can't imagine it's going to be too much better in Mega Drafts as compared to
Definitely not.
SNC itself.
Yeah, takes I think it was called Take to the Streets. He grabbed that. Yeah, these cards are unlikely to be played. They're already in the sideboard. So now we got Neon Dynasty here, where he's highlighted the March of Wretched Sorrow, which is a removal spell. X and a black. A creature it deals X damage to a creature and gain X life. And you can get a discount if you discard a black card, I believe.
Yeah. And the Goshentai wouldn't be terrible. What else do we have here?
Yeah, there's a few good cards here. I mean, the Selfless Samurai is a good 2-drop, but it doesn't really go with anything he's doing. This March of Wretched Sorrow, if he's black, obviously he'll want it. If he's splashing black, it's splashable. It's only one black symbol. It's flexible. It's not super efficient. Like, you're usually just going to be behind on what it does. So, like, for 3 damage, for 3 mana, you're dealing 2 damage and so on. But the fact that it's flexible is good. And it gains
flexible
life.
and lightning. Yeah, so it makes up for it a little bit.
Yeah. Though, as I found out, it is not -X. I remember I cast it in a draft thinking I was going to be able to eat my opponent's creature and ended up trading because it deals X damage.
Is that Erebos intervention, or
Yeah.
am I?
Erebos intervention was -X. So this is
I always confuse cards with the same mana cost for each player.
this is reminiscent, but not as good. So he's looking at quite a few number of middling cards here. That rare Mindlink mech, I think, when it gets crewed, it can become a copy of the creature that crewed it.
When it attacks, I think it's not the crew. I can look that up real quick. So
I thought it was when it becomes crewed because you can get attack triggers. If the creature you copy has an attack.
Oh, you're
trigger.
right. You're right.
Yeah, but it is hard to use because you don't get enter the battlefield abilities. It's just, and you don't get a power toughness boost. So it's literally just if it has like if it has a combat keyword or an attack trigger. So hard to use. Let's see what he goes for here. There's quite a number of things.
Creature running around.
I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised he landed on the land here. I'm not surprised.
Disciplined Duelist is a nice thing to crew, isn't it?
There you go. Double strike. It won't get a shield counter, but it'll get double strike. So he's looking at the land here. A lot of these cards are just cards that are not going to be good enough in most decks. Dockside Chef is kind of a standout here. It's just a very unique effect. It looks like he's just going to take the land here. There's so many picks left in this draft. You can take a land and not be too punished. Yeah, you're not gonna be short on playables in this draft. You do have to settle on colors at some point, but you can take pretty much as many lands as you want to. So it's like he's looking at Virus Beetle here, which was a standout in the Neon Dynasty format. Particularly that effect has shown up in many sets, including we saw it in New Capenna, where it was good, not as good. But that card just always does what it says it does. It grabs a card out of an opponent's hand.
The fact that it was combined with ninjutsu and a lot of artifact synergies made that card even better.
Yeah, it was a standout. It got its day in the sun after being sort of just an okay card in every set it showed up in. We saw it in New Capenna. It was useful with the casualty mechanic and things like Fake Your Own Death to bring it back into play.
Kaldheim had the elf version of it as well.
Yeah, and that card didn't really do much in that format, and so that card it varies depending on the set, but in Megadraft, the average card quality is higher, so making your opponent discard a card is not bad. So it looks like he's looking at the Ecologist Terrarium here, which is a much better version of the Ominous Parcel.
That's not removal.
Well, yeah, but it replaces itself immediately, and then for just the 2 mana, and then later you can put a counter on something.
Yeah, it seems responsible for mana base.
Yeah,
pick up.
I would personally prefer that over a Ominous Parcel if I could only have one or the other.
I probably agree with that.
Yeah, nothing much else in this pack stands out. Mirror Shell Crab is like an interesting card as if you need something to close the game out, but he still doesn't know exactly what he's doing, so the Terrarium is going to be a good include here no matter what. Okay.
I'm wondering if we need to value mana sinks more than we're used to in this format of drafting.
Yeah, the games go long. It's harder to have a dedicated aggro deck here. It's possible. We've seen it, but it's more difficult. Like I've said, the most effective decks have sort of been these green mid-range decks, often Gruul. So it does have an aggressive tone to it, but it also can just, play big creatures in the late game and just take over that way as well. All of these cards are pretty middling. Let's see what he gravitates towards here.
Well, the Harmonious does go with the game plan you just described, I suppose. Some chunky creatures.
Yeah. The Sunblade Samurai is like a good fixer. It's like a nice body that can serve a dual purpose of fixing for planes. He's taken the Harmonious Emergence. Not sure if that's going to make the final cut, but that card ended up being quite a lot better than it looked. We've seen a
Yeah,
lot of
because you get
effects like that in the past that were not good, and this was actually a pretty okay version of that effect.
the vigilance makes you not fall behind too bad if you
Yeah,
got attack with your chunky creature.
yeah. So here's an Intercessor's Arrest, a removal. He's just taking that over a bunch of other cards that aren't that useful. So Intercessor's Arrest, just straight up removal. It locks something down.
Sagas that
You
are
can't do anything. Well,
sagas are kind of
that was Befriending the Moths, which was not the best saga. There was the other white common saga, which was good. I think it was the Era of Enlightenment, where you got to scry 2, gain 2 life,
yeah.
and then you get a first strike creature. That one was pretty good. I'd be pretty happy to play that in Megadraft. But Befriending the Moths is a bit more difficult to use. There's a fixer in this pack, the Network Terminal. See if he grabs that over some of these other cards that, again, not super high power level for Megadraft here.
Like Arm Guard Familiar. I'm not a big fan of the card, but if you just got big creatures as your game plan, slapping that on a creature in the late game, mid to late game,
Yeah.
without them being able to interact with it.
So
I wonder how that's going.
he's highlighted
That was
he's highlighted the Network Terminal as I suspected he might. It's a fixer that can provide extra value later of potentially looting. So here there's a couple choices. Brute Suit ended up being pretty good in Neon Dynasty. Not sure how much you want an aggressive 3-mana vehicle in Megadraft, but
yeah.
there's if he wants to dirtle around and draw cards, there's the Mnemonic Sphere, which does the trick. We'll see what he settles on here. Okay, so Thundersteel Colossus. If you need a finisher, that thing is effective. It does have haste. If he's going for wanting to maybe do a ramp type of strategy, which he doesn't have any ramp cards yet, aside from the Network Terminal, but that can be a good top end if you need it. Which in a Megadraft you usually don't.
Kamigawa is one of the higher synergy sets we've seen, and you can see the packs here and realize.
Yeah, a lot of these cards don't play well with others from like other sets. They're asking you to do very specific things, like care about enchantments, care about artifacts, care about samurais, care about ninjas.
Imagine some of the other people at the table got some nice sagas in their decks. See at some point.
Grafted Growth is an interesting card here. That's a fixer that really lets you be a bit greedy because it lets your land tap for 2 of anything, so you can get away with double splashes even, like splashing an off-color card that has 2 symbols. 2 mana symbols off of your main colors. So that's kind of one of the better ramp cards you get at common.
I pick up something that will need a grafted.
He'll take the green card here just for signaling, I guess. That one's not going to make the cut, I don't think. That barely ever made the cut in Neon Dynasty, the Coiling Stalker.
It's fine on its surface. We'll see if it was better in this format.
Yeah, it's hard to get the second counter from that card. It's simple enough to get the first counter. See if he just takes the green card here to stick with the signaling. Try and get people off of green if he can.
I have to imagine there'll be too many enchantment creatures they'll pick up.
To be honest, outside from the Workshop War Chief and the Elegant Entourage, he hasn't seen a lot of mono green cards that are good. He's seen a lot of gold cards, as you can see, as the 2 Disciplined Duelists that are green. But as far as mono green, hasn't seen too much. Okay. Let's get a Reckoner's...
Quarter of the way through.
Let's get a Reckoner's Shakedown here, which is probably just going to go right to the sideboard. Yeah, so next we are going into Crimson Vow, the set which was known for its very, very powerful rares and mythics. A lot of them very cheap in mana, particularly. Could take over the game for 3 or 4 mana. So he's got the Concealing Currency, which is not in that... it's not in the ultimate bomb status, but the card was good.
I actually despise that card. I've lost to it. The fact that it's a menace attacker, that you can't if you don't just straight remove their 1-drop, you're gonna be taking a beating if they can hold you to 1 creature or less.
Yeah, I mean, it is not a 2-for-1 because they get to look at your hand and take a card, but you do draw a card after. So at least there's that. Looks like he's highlighted the Angelic Quartermaster right now, which would be a bit of a departure from what he's taken so far
Nice
because
card.
that's a pretty aggressive card. It's like it's a it's a top of the curve card for aggressive decks. So maybe he's thinking I haven't seen a lot of cards that make me think I can go long game. So maybe he wants the Angelic Quartermaster and might lean towards aggressive strategy here instead of taking the
Caleb
Concealing Curtains.
might
Now
also
there,
be.
now there's a green
I was
card.
gonna say Caleb might also be reading that Black's not incredibly open. But Quartermaster just is an absolutely fine card, but
Wow.
on color rare here.
Yeah, so these packs do have virtual foils in them because otherwise it looks like a common was taken. Which by pack 3, if you see a card as good as Ulvenwald Oddity, I think you just take it no matter what you're drafting and
Yeah.
leave at least a door open for green because that card is so powerful.
So whoever's to Caleb's right has
I believe
probably opened a foot.
the backside gives all of your creatures +1/+1 trample haste, I believe.
At instant speed, I think, because you get to
Yeah,
flip it.
yeah, it costs 7. But yeah, so when you're drafting 8 packs, I think no matter what you have after 2 packs, you see a card that powerful, you just take it. So unless there was a foil rare, looks like a common was taken. So, you know, when we look through the draft logs later, we'll know. But for now, it'll have to remain a mystery of what looks like Cody's passing to him. So what Cody Race ended up
Really a
taking.
nice pick too there on color rare to go with your War Chief.
Yep. Yeah. So now he's looks like he's gonna cement himself here. He has 2 bombs in green, absolute bombs. So it looks like he's gonna be. Already looked like he was leaning towards green, but looks like he's cemented now with these 2 cards. So looking at this pack, there's not too many great things. That green uncommon is not great. Falconwrath Celebrants was a very, very high performing common from that set. We'll see what he decides to do here. There's nothing that appealing to go with what he has so far. So maybe this pick will branch him out or put a feeler out into a different color.
In pack 3 here, you can certainly still be open. I wouldn't mind speculating on something like Lantern Bearer, but it's probably a lot worse in this kind of format.
Yeah, the Wolfkin Outcast is not that exciting. The 6 mana 5/4. I think you get a discount if you have a wolf. And when it flips, you draw cards when your wolves die. Looks like he was thinking about the Wandering Mind there for a moment, but settled on the wolf.
Yeah, demands a little synergy. I don't think he has much of right now for that.
Yeah, that's a harder one to make work. So now he's looking at Flame Blessed Bolt, which is just a very efficient removal, instant speed, exiles the creature. So just a good card.
Our creature's gonna die to that as often now that we're not drafting. I think it's probably gonna be a bit worse than we're used to.
Yeah,
I imagine.
I still think it's good. You can't fill your deck with those effects in Megadraft. The creatures are probably going to be a little bit better and bigger, but you're still happy to have them. And as far as 1 mana removals, that's among the better ones you could find.
I like that we have to reevaluate everything. That makes this format a lot better. You have to think on your toes.
Yeah. So my eyes here are drawn towards the Grisly Ritual down at the far right. So 6 mana is a lot for removal, but it does pay you back. It gives you the 2 bloods, and as we've saw in Crimson Vow, blood is just a very, very powerful mechanic. The Spiked Ripsaw he's selected is a card that if you're aggressive, this card is going to beat down. But even if your deck's a little more mid range, it still presents a lot of damage, and as a way to close out the game.
Yeah, every one of your creatures has to be dealt with. I think Caleb might be sensing Black is not that open. The Grizzly Ritual might have been the pick otherwise.
Yeah, because remember, he decided against taking the Concealing Curtains, pick 1, and decided on the Quartermaster instead. So it looks like he's going to be green, and based on his picks, he's leaning towards white or red as his second color potentially so far, but there's still plenty to go. We're not even halfway through yet. So he's taken the Saw Blade Slinger, which I believe it can fight zombies. Yeah.
and kill an enchantment or something. I'll check.
Okay. Yeah.
It can destroy an artifact.
Yeah, it kills artifacts or fights zombies. So, 4 mana, 4/3. Usually was a sideboard card a lot of the time.
It is green. There
Yep.
were a couple of decent red cards in this pack. I guess Caleb's not committing to a different color as
Yeah.
of now.
There's been a lot of Falcon Wrath Celebrants. It looks like he's not particularly been tempted by any of them. That card is a good 5-drop. There's a Hookhand Mariner here, which I suspect he'll want. That's just a
Yeah.
really, really good 4-drop. Turns into a big threat on the backside. 6/4 that you can't put small creatures in front of.
So right now it's looking like green and these two disciplined duelists want to get in, but there's a lack of fixing. Not surprising.
I think purposely so. He's taking green cards over maybe slightly better cards in other colors just to stay green and to delay the decision until he finds something that really, really pushes him in a specific direction. So he hasn't really seen anything that really entices him to be a color other than green yet. But he has, as we see, he has some feelers in other colors. Here's yet another Falcon Wrath Celebrants, I believe the fourth one that's come by. The green, he could take the little Scorpion here, the Death Touch card. It looks like he's selecting the Shield Basher. So, going back to that Angelic Quartermaster pick, he might be going for a green-white deck that leans aggressive, but, can go late game as well.
You're gonna probably try and splash a couple islands. Maybe
Right.
is the long term game plan.
So
If
he has
possible.
finally decided to take a Celebrants here over the white and green cards. Just having seen so many of them, maybe figures red as a lane he can get into.
All the celebrants coming is a little signal about red.
Yeah,
I suppose.
it's a decent speculation here. The Shield Basher is it's pretty replaceable.
Ooh,
So
Skulker.
sticking the Skulking
But
Killer,
she,
which was a very difficult card to use, if I recall, didn't see much play.
maybe the least sought after common
Yeah,
set.
the Flame Breather ended up being good, but in a green-red deck, the Flame Breather is probably at its worst. A green-red deck, you're probably going to have a higher density of creatures than any other deck that red would go into. So I would imagine he would be interested in a Crushing Canopy here as a sideboard card, but he
Yeah,
could take one of
exactly what I
these
was.
red cards. The Daybreak Combatants is a lot more aggressive than the Fearful Villager, so maybe he's got his eye fixed towards a potential aggressive strategy. I think he's just giving himself options. So if he wants to go, if he wants to be really aggro, he has this Daybreak Combatants. He's
Okay.
giving himself options here.
Probably not making the final cut if he's not aggro.
Yeah, we'll see how aggressive he thinks his deck can be. He has gone with the Celebrants here, so has 2 of those now. That's just a really good 5-drop. So he has quite a few 4s and 5s now. Between Elegant Entourage, Uvenwald Oddity, the Workshop War Chief, the 2 Falcon Wrath Celebrants, the Hookhand Mariner. He's got his 4 and 5 slots
That's the way to win.
pretty
You don't
filled
die
up
early.
now. You just gotta don't see a lot of good 2 drops yet, but there's time. He has the Jetmir's Fixers.
You could win with all these 4 or 5 drops.
Yeah. Yeah, the Lightning Wolf was a pretty big filler. The fact that you had to use it as a sorcery to get a first strike was a pretty big downside. All right, so as the pack 3 comes to a close, we're going into Midnight Hunt now.
Someone's hoping for organ murders.
So he's definitely green. He's looking more like he's going to be red, but still, it's still open. Honestly, he's not committed to red yet. I don't think. He's looking at the Falcon Wrath Pit Fighter, that rare, which is a pretty aggressive card, 1 mana 2/1. That other ability does not come up very often. I think he's trolling us now with the highlighting the stuffed bear. So thank you for the fun.
The pick. So what do we think? It's either a green or a red card in here. Probably Burn the Accurse is some removal he doesn't have yet.
Yeah, I know that a lot of the drafters, a lot of the times we've seen just the 5 mana removals, the 5 mana red removal that doesn't even kill everything is just like not high on people's radars. The Death Bonnet Sprout is, a good early drop that can get some value late in the game. He doesn't really have any other graveyard type stuff, but that card operates like well even on its own.
That has to be answered. Now, Seize the Storm, would have to look at the deck list, but I don't think there's too much going on with it.
Yeah, that wouldn't be really for a Gruul deck most of the time. That'd be more a Rakdos or an Izzet deck. Red-black or red-blue would make really good use of that. Red-green harder. Yeah, so he did go for the Death Bonnet Sprout here. He's got one of the better combat tricks you'll find in Lunar Frenzy here. Like, if you could only choose a couple of combat tricks to go in your deck, this is one that ends up high on the list.
Yep. Agreed.
There's
you don't have to pay.
Yeah, there's a few 2-drops here, but they're all pretty average, and he's just identified that Lunar Frenzy is really an excellent trick.
And he's got big power on his creatures. Just even paying 1 to give that trample could mean a lot.
Yeah, and first strike, right?
That first strike, yeah.
Trample and first strikes, yeah. So even if X is 0, sometimes, if you're attacking with a 5 power, 4 power, it's good enough. Oop. Okay. We lost him for a moment.
Yeah, I agree that if there's any combat trick you want, that one's flexible, dangerous, wins combat.
Yeah, there's only so many combat tricks you could put in your deck, and if you had to prioritize them, Lunar Frenzy would always end up near the top of the list out of what's available.
Rule card connections nighttime.
Yeah, that one's a bit hard to use. It does let your creature draw a card if it gets through. He's identified Ecstatic Awakener here as probably the best card in the pack, and in his mind, he's not too far into red to potentially play black. None of these green or red cards are that appealing. The Brimstone Vandal was okay, but the rest of the green and red cards there were mostly not played a lot of the time. So he's gone for the Ecstatic Awakener, which was a really, really, really good performer in that format. Not much keeping him in black. Yeah, he still hasn't seen like a bomb or like several burn spells that really cement him into red. Like he has the Flame Blessed Bolt. He hasn't seen any red rares that he wants. We saw the Falconwrath Pit Fighter, but that's not that desirable. So, he's taken more red cards than other colors, but he's still open here. There's another Ecstatic Awakener here, which if you took the first one, you might want the second one.
Could be that black is we don't know. Yeah, black is being passed this way, but not the other way. Yeah, that's what we're seeing.
Dawnheart Rejuvenator could be interesting. Midnight Hunt was pretty much a 2-color format, so you weren't splashing around all that much. So the Dawnheart Rejuvenator was not as good as it was maybe in other formats. Like I think it was in War of the Spark, and it was a bit better. But in this format, if he is splashing, this is a great card. Because often if your deck is splashing and trying to go late game, you fall behind a little bit in the early game, and this just shores that up. It gains life, it's a body, and it does fix you.
We could say that Ecstatic Awakener, sacrificing a little thing to it, is not exactly what his green chunky creature deck is wanting to do at this point.
No, that card is just strong. It pairs well with something like a Virus Beetle, that's for sure. But a lot of the rest of his creatures don't really jive with that. So Silverbolt is looking like a card you might want. We'll see if that ends up making the cut. If you're short on removal, you could play it. Obviously, at Midnight Hunt, it killed werewolves, so that was excellent. Less likely to kill werewolves in Megadraft.
It could kill changelings in Kaldheim.
It sure can. Yes, all of the changelings. Yeah.
Drawback to changeling.
So again, we're getting halfway through pack 4 here. So I believe that the drafters all agreed to take a pause partway through. So after 4 packs, they're just gonna pause the draft for a couple of minutes just to refuel. It's a long draft. Just to take a pause, think about things. Maybe get up and get a drink or something. So
well-needed removal here.
Yeah, this is not a great removal, the Duel for Dominance. We just get better versions of this now regularly. But if you need a removal, it's a fight spell, it's instant speed. Potentially you can get a counter out of it. But I would think you would want to upgrade from that if he could.
Of course, yeah. But Gruul only gets so good.
Yeah, he hasn't seen burn spells. Like, he saw the Lacerate Flesh in the Pack of Crimson Vow, but that card is very, very medium. He took the Flame Blessed Bolt, hasn't seen much other red removal.
I imagine Caleb's going to end pack 4 with green and question mark as the next.
No, he's made a point to stay open, take the green card in most spots. Here he has decided on take a burn spell. This is one of the better 5-mana ones. Notably, he does have the Ready to Rumble from the new Capenna pack, which also deals 5 damage.
I might be immediately wrong here as he cuts the white and black out of the...
Yeah, it looks like he's settling into Gruul. I could still see him doing something else, depending on what he finds, but halfway through the draft, it's going to be hard to shift into another color. He doesn't really have anything to go with. He has the Murder. He has a Murder and a Virus Beetle, an Ecstatic Awakener, and 2 Disciplined Duelists as like off-ramps from green-red to something else. Unlikely for those to be what he needs to pull him away from this, but we'll see what happens in the next packs. But looks like he's settling in here. So he's measuring a 2-drop versus a 5-drop. He took the 5-drop. At some point, he will be faced with a decision. A similar decision will have to take the 2-drop. But for now, he went with the 5-drop.
2-drop, you gotta pay for the keyword.
Yeah, not the best.
And it's not a cheap price either.
Yeah, there's only so many times you could take the 5-drop over the... once again, him with his stuffed bear trolling. Immediately selects the stuffed bear while deciding what he actually wants.
Burn the Accursed can go well with some trample creatures. They try to like double block your big trample creature. You end up hitting them for a whole lot.
Yeah, again, like compare Burn the Accursed to Ready to Rumble, and like Burn the Accursed just is so much better. I know Ready to Rumble can hit an artifact, but the fact that it's instant speed, exiles the creature, and also just deals direct damage to them, it's just so much better here. So he's got his pick of which mediocre wolf he wants. Yeah, he could pick any 3 of these mediocre wolves.
Mediocre wolves was what this set was about.
Yeah, it was funny. It was the werewolf set, and green red ended up being one of the worst color combinations, despite it being the werewolf themed set.
Oh, you just saw that other wolf where you have to pay 3 to give a death touch?
Yeah. Brimstone Vandal is a decent little aggressive card. It's a little menace creature that can maybe deal a couple of extra points throughout the game. Performed well in a lot of the deck series. Just going to go for tapping at the window. It's a slow 2-for-1, but it can be a 2-for-1. There's the Festival Crasher. Again, these cards that care about instant or sorceries are at their worst in a Gruul deck, just because Gruul is going to have a high density of creatures. But if he ends up with enough spells and needing a 2-drop, that card is fine. It's a 1/3. It can block.
Spells there.
It's interesting. Yeah, interesting. He took the Snarling Wolf over the Immolation, which is it's a 1-mana. It's kind of like a shock variant. It's +2/-2. Decided he's just not interested in that at all. Would rather have that 1-drop.
So I guess it's break time.
Yeah,
for a couple minutes.
Yeah, I believe Chris York, who's running the draft, is putting it on pause. So he does get to see his AFR pack here, Adventures of the Forgotten Realms. I guess there was no way around that. Could have paused it during the last pick of the other pack. So he does get to see his possibilities here. So we can discuss that while they're taking a pause. But so looking at his deck, looks like he settled on Gruul. I'm not sure if he's happy about it. Like, again, his red is pretty middling. Like, the cards he went into red for was like a late Falconwrath Celebrants, a Flame Blessed Bolt, and some Burn the Accursed were like the cards that sort of drew him in. He just had...
It showed like it was... it looked like red was showing how it was a little bit open with the Burn the Accursed among worse cards in the packs at the end there.
Yeah, the Jetmir's Fixers are pretty shrewd pickups. We sort of noted that he took them over maybe some cards that were better with the possibility of falling back into Gruul, since Gruul has been a good performer. Just saying, if I end up Gruul, I'll be happy to have these. And it looks like he is going to end up Gruul, and he is probably very happy to have those. So very shrewd pickups there. Those Jetmir's fixers in the new Capenna pack.
It could make for some nice threat of activation attacks in this draft, so I guess we'll see.
Yeah, I'm not sure how many treasures he'll end up with. I don't think he has much of
But you don't need
anything.
treasures. It's not
Yeah,
great, but you don't need treasures.
yeah, yeah. If you have treasure, it's a little more interesting, but it's just a really good 2-drop. Like the fact that it's repeatable. A lot of the times, like we see with the Snarling Wolf, like look at it side by side with Snarling Wolf, that can only activate once a turn. Jetmir's Fixer can
Yeah.
just push through so much damage in certain situations. So he took those as a very very speculative picks, and it looks like it's going to really really work out for him as far as
Looking at the
making use of those.
looking at the 5-drops, a 4/5, a 5/3, a 4/5, 2/4/4s with Menace. And 4-drops is potentially even scarier with the Uvenwald, Oddity, and
Yep.
oh no, sorry, the War Chief is a 5-drop.
Yeah, the
Anyway, he's
elegant
got
the
a
elegant
scary
entourage
profile.
can give trample to anything, right? Can give trample.
Oh yeah,
Did the
oh
Falconraz
yeah,
Salabans have a keyword? Was it menace?
yeah. It's Menace. Yeah,
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. So
I like how that pairs. Menace pairs well with something like instant burn the accursed because they double block, you blow them out, do them 2 damage.
yeah,
Might,
looking into the future, I think what he needs is like 2-drop creatures, 3-drop creatures, some cheaper interaction spells. Like he doesn't need 5 mana burn spells and 5-drop creatures. He needs cheap things, creatures, interaction. Looks like he's brought in that Witch's Web, which was the 2 mana +3/+3 untap trick, which he might end up wanting. Yeah, so he needs to get some good low drop creatures here. His deck is looking like it's going to be on the more aggressive side. Still mid range, but with green red you do want to have the possibility to have an aggressive start. Like his 2 and 3 drops are pretty unimpressive outside of the Jetmir's fixers. Like those other cards there, we've the Bearer of Memory, the Daybreak Combatants, Coiling Stalker. Like they're just below average by a lot.
early interaction is probably what he wants to find here for sure. The Spike Ripsaw is kind of a win condition on its own if you can just slap it on your big creatures for a few turns at the end of the game.
Yeah, even on a Jetmir's fixer, like imagine you sack your forest, give it trample, and then have the possibility of pumping it even more. Like, yeah, the Spiked Ripsaw is a finisher. Um, the +3/+3 and the possibility of trample. Uh, yeah, that was a good pickup there from him. So we should be getting back to the draft in a few moments. So looking at this AFR pack, we could see most of the cards here. He has the Guardian of Faith at rare. As far as green and red cards, it looks like he has the Circle of the Moon Druid, which is that 3-drop that's a 2/4. It's a 4/2 on your turn, and a 2/4 on opponent's turn. And there's that big 6-drop,
Yeah.
the Earth Cult Elemental, that makes you or your opponent sack stuff.
There's a technical issue here. Chris just posted that he's unable to unpause the draft,
Oh,
which is probably going to result in screenshots and a 4-pack draft.
okay, yeah. So
And
we may have some technical issue here. They might not be able to restart the draft properly, which might mean that they need to draft the other 4-packs separately, which makes it more difficult for everybody, unfortunately. Um, Hopefully they get this worked out. But in the meantime, we could still discuss what we see here. Um, that AFR
the
pack.
four the 4 packs coming up. Maybe we can talk about that. So what do we have?
Yeah, so we have Adventures of the Forgotten Realms. We have Strixhaven, which green red was not a supported color pair, so he won't be able to make use of gold cards from that set. There was
All
Call
diamonds
Time.
into cards. Yeah.
Call Time, green red was pretty strong. And then there was Zendikar Rising.
Zendikar had I think that was aggro landfall.
Yeah, green
Was
red, it
that
was supposed to be a landfall deck. Ended up you could just draft like a pretty good aggressive deck there.
Yeah, I don't think aggro landfall is going to be what he's going to pick up.
No,
to
and there
this.
weren't even that many good payoffs for landfall, and there were very few ways to put multiple lands into play in a turn. Well, it looks like they have resumed, so it looks like he's settled. Clicking on evolving wilds here. There's one red card and one green card, and they're really not where he wants to be for first
Do I
pick
see
here.
an inspiring overseer there? Oh,
No, it's the
no,
priest
no.
of ancient lore. It's it's what
I know.
it's
I
what
know. It's that
inspiring overseer was in 2021. It was the
inspiring
2021
overseer
version.
at
Yeah,
yeah, Evolving Wilds as a first pick, not that incredible to see.
yeah, and we thought life was good when we got priest of ancient lore. Whew, little did we know what was coming down the pipe.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he took that evolving well. It's a pretty uninspiring pack here for him. Lots of bunch of black cards in this pack, and then very little of
Well,
interest in other colors.
look at that Mordenkainen's transformation too. That's another example. No draw card.
Yeah, well, it's 2 mana, so I guess the ones we got after were 3, but
Yeah.
yeah, because now we got that effect 2 sets in a row. That land is a very good. The Lair of the Hydra. Um, Looks like he's gonna pick up that. The Druid class, I believe, was the one that cared about lands. You could play extra lands, then your land became an XX later, something like that.
Let me see. Yeah.
The
You
swarm,
gain life when you land enters.
yeah, the Swarming Goblins was a good 5 drop, but he doesn't need to prioritize 5 drops now. And Lair of the Hydra, again, in a draft where you have so many picks, you just get. It looks like
He's capturing all green.
he wants to read
So
this card, Ingenious Smith. He wants a bigger version of it. You look at the top 4 or 5, you get an artifact, and then it gets a counter when an artifact comes in, but that only happens once a turn. Yeah, in this format where you're just drafting so many more cards that make your deck, anything that fills up a land slot that does something is a premium. So he's got
we
he's
got
got
a
a
one color.
he's got another land here, the Den of the Bugbear. There's a good chance that gold uncommon comes back to him as well.
Argnar wheeling. Yeah, I could see that
Yeah,
happening, unless not someone else knows the Gruul secret.
yeah, yeah. So it looks like he's really making use of he's only taken lands from this pack, but they're all
Evolving
they're all
Wild.
just really good. Den of the Bugbear, Lair of
Evolving
the
Wild
Hydra.
followed by two rare man lands in his colors.
These are
That's
like
pretty nice.
outside of like insane bomb rares. Like this is about as good of a start to a pack that you can have with those 2 rare lands.
It's pretty nice that the two people next to him are not taking that Gruul uncommon because it's pretty sweet.
Yeah, well, the people passing to this pack are not playing green or red because they would have taken those lands over pretty much. Like, look at the rest of this pack. Now he's got the
Yeah.
Chaos Channeler, which was a premium 4 drop. Really strong. It can get you card advantage, can exile the top 1 or 2 cards of your deck, and you can play them that until end of turn. So, and just a 4 mana 4/3. Like, that card was very good. I mean, his 4 drop slot is getting a bit heavy there, but he has a lot of filler that I'm sure he'd be happy to replace a lot of those cards with the Chaos Channeler. Looking at Lightning Wolf, Tavern Ruffian, the Paragon of
Still add
Modernity.
an Owlbear.
Like, this is just an upgrade to, a good number of the cards he already has there at the 4 drop slot.
I'd still add an Owlbear in there in the 5 drop
Yeah.
slot if you got it.
So I still believe he needs to shore up his 2 and 3 drop slot. So he's found another Evolving Wilds here. Just again another fixer. Like, this works. If he ends up finding something to splash, he's got lots of fixing. So between the Dawnheart Rejuvenator and all of those fixers you see in his land slot there, the artifacts that fix and whatnot, if he finds a powerful gold card or something off color.
He may very well find a strong black or white card. He might crack one open in the next 3 packs. We don't know.
Yeah, again, you need to be not a double symbol card, but there's
Single pip.
He definitely has outs to splash something. He has a red-blue land as well that he took in the Neon Dynasty pack. So that's not in his pile right now. That's in his sideboard. But if he sees a blue card, he has an extra way to make blue. So
He's
he's
passing a Wizard Blast. That's a decent card for someone on his right,
yeah
left maybe.
he's set himself up here to be able to splash something if he finds it.
Speaking of Slash, the Ogre makes jitters.
Yeah, that ogre was pretty good. He's got a lot of fours, so maybe he wants to fill up another slot. The Neverwinter Dryad was a pretty weak card in AFR, but it's not a terrible card on its own. I mean, it doesn't fix you; it gets you a basic force, but it is ramp, and he doesn't really have much ramp, so that might be a consideration. But he's just gone for the 6-drop here. That one was pretty good, honestly.
Rolling D20 is in the top 8 Megadraft.
6/6 for 6. Half the time, your opponent has to sack something, and you don't. So there's a reasonable 3-drop here. It's better when you're attacking. He's gone for the You Meet in a Tavern, which is a modal card where you can either look at the top 5 and you draw all the creatures that are in your top 5, or everything gets +2/+2. So pretty flexible card, though. 4-mana sorcery. It's not super
There's
efficient.
Plummet being left. Could have
Yeah,
been considered.
Plummet is being
sideboard.
overlooked. I know we've seen in the past. We've covered drafters that really valued sideboard cards, and it looks like he's not that interested. We've seen him pass a few sideboard cards.
Few picks left here. We're going to pick 8, so it'll be the last pack we see.
Yeah, not too much interesting here. I mean, Bag of Holding is slow, but it's a good card. I don't think he's going to take that red 4-drop. Find the Path. It does not fix you. It ramps you. It lets your land tap for 2 green, and it lets you get a Venture, which usually is just a scry from the middle dungeon. See what he takes here. Maybe he wants another piece of ramp. The Bag of Holding can be good. If the game gets drawn out, it's a way to go over the top.
Now, if we're going to see Targnar, I believe that was the 3rd pack, so it's not a great chance.
Yeah.
See it again.
All right, so this was that pack that he opened where he took an Evolving Wilds, and the green and red cards are still both there. A nod to the fact that they weren't very good.
Yeah.
He's going to take the 3-drop here. I think he just needs a body, and that one's pretty okay one.
Lower curve. Tax. Oh, it blocks.
It blocks as a 2/4.
Yeah.
And then it attacks as a 4/2. So very interesting design. Haven't really seen anything like that before, but it was pretty good for a common 3-drop. It was effective. So he has the choice here between taking another Moon Druid or this Spike Pit Trap, which is a inefficient removal spell that deals 5 damage to a creature. He's gone for the Druid. Just to shore up his 3-drop slot.
That's from 2-drop.
Yeah, that's a good one, because if he's got some cheap removal or pump spells, he's attacking with a 4/2. If he needs to sit back and defend himself while he sets up for his bigger plays, he's got a 2/4. So
no love for the sideboard. This is the Targnar pack, so let's take investment.
No, he definitely was not interested in Plummet, even as a sideboard card. He took the Neverwinter Dryad. So that is a nod to potentially somebody being Gruul. It's also possible that somebody just took it as like the best card in the pack and there was nothing for them. Like that pack wasn't that strong. So I don't know if it's a point of concern, but yeah, it's a little troubling that it wasn't there. Could be a nod to just somebody taking it as a hate draft. We'll find out when we look at the draft logs after. We'll get to see what everyone did.
Possible someone's in Grill as well. It wouldn't surprise me too much.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like a known thing now by us that have been around for a while that Gruul has been a high performer in the mega drafts, and people, I wouldn't say force it, but gravitate towards it. And if they see a chance to jump into Gruul, they might just take it. So here's this Strixhaven pack, which he unfortunately won't be able to use any of these gold cards. But he does find a premium common and exactly what he's looking for, which is this Heated Debate. A 3-mana, deal 4 damage to a creature. Just exactly what he needs here. His priorities now are this cheap interaction, which, I mean, all decks want cheap interaction, but he's lacking in it. And the 2 and 3-drop slot, which he didn't really, aside from those Moon Druids, he hasn't really addressed that yet. So now might be the time where he absolutely has to start taking 2 and 3 drops. He has a lot of one drops,
One of,
but most of them are
uh,
cards you don't want to put in your deck a lot of the time.
one of the best cards you could have seen right there.
Oh yeah,
Got it right in the deck.
yeah, that's
Passing
true.
the Sciences card, not the greatest when you can't draft a bunch of Learn in your deck.
Yeah, I do remember when we had our Strixhaven top 8 draft, and Strixhaven was the first pack. The person who ended up winning the draft, Zach, he actually took all the lessons he saw from the first few picks, which made it a lot less desirable for anybody to take learn cards because nobody had lessons. Like he was just snapping up all the lessons, even though there was only one pack of Strixhaven. He was just taking all the lessons so that he was the only one that could get learn cards and do something with them. Uh, so he has a couple choices here. He has this very very medium 2-drop, the the historian there. There's a field trip there, which is a ramp. It doesn't fix, but it's a ramp that that learns. He might just have to take this 2-drop here.
It learns their remages, not the
Yeah,
worst, but 2-drop. The 2-drop is kind of 2 creatures, right? Maybe the Historian.
yeah. So of note, I'm scanning through this pack before it goes away. I think the lesson is gone, right?
The lesson, yeah,
Yeah,
looks
yeah. So
like it.
somebody just yeah. Whoever's next in this pack might have had that concept that I just spoke of, which is even with only one pack of Strixhaven, take all the lessons that you see in the first few picks, and then the learn cards are basically going to be yours. Because with one pack of Strixhaven, nobody's going to take learn cards early if they don't have the lessons.
You better hope the learns are on color if you're doing that strategy,
Yeah,
though.
yeah, but well, in when the draft started with Strixhaven, it was a lot more viable because you
Yeah,
didn't know what you were doing yet. So he's gone for the one
yeah.
drop here, opting to be a little more aggressive than just taking that 2-drop. So the Hall Monitor, which is a haste creature, and then can later stop something from blocking by
I would take
tapping.
a look at the Condrix campus since we're so many. These lands are going to be of higher. There you go, higher
Quandrix,
priority. So
yeah, these campuses are very good, especially in these type of formats where the games go a bit longer.
free include.
Those have a big difference. The other pick would have probably been the Pledge Mage, the 5-drop.
Yeah, I think
That
he's got
that
that
was a
slot.
yeah, that was a very good 5-drop.
I think his 5 mana 5/5s are a bit less appealing with the pick so far.
Yeah, no, taking
But the
taking
campuses,
taking a
yeah, you
land
don't have
is
to.
perfectly fine. Uh, even if there's no blue in your deck, the card's just a tapped forest that later scries. Like that's still good.
I think he just brought Lightning Wolf in on the side.
Yeah, looks like he might be feeling like he has to just be as aggressive as he can be, rather than just have a deck
That
that
is
maybe goes a little later. So he has a choice between a 5-mana removal, which he has plenty of, and a Professor of Zoomancy, which is just a really really good card. So he does have a lot of 4s, but this similar to the last time when he took a 4, the Chaos Channeler, it's just an upgrade over some of the stuff he has in the 4-drop slot. So
they
without
got the
without a
two
2 or 3
legendaries.
drop, yeah, without a 2 or 3 drop to take, yeah, that Professor is the best thing for him there. So
The
again,
two legendary students in this pack.
yeah, yeah, the Zimone and the Quintorius, which he was frequently, Caleb frequently had Quintorius as his avatar, as he's a fan of Boros.
Ah,
Yeah, so
Signet Storm. Well,
I'm still looking at that 2-drop slot and 3-drop slot and not loving what I see, but now he's got a Mage Duel, so that's kind of what was on the menu here. Cheap interactive spell. Um, like I was saying, we a lot of the time, we get Rabid Bites effects rather than fights, but this is a +1/+2 in a fight. So this is a really really good fighting effect, like way better than the duel for dominance that he has. So even though duel for dominance is cheaper at an instant, Mage Duel, I mean, first of all, you could sometimes play it for 1 mana, but the +1/+2 is huge because it enables an attack and it means your guy's more likely to survive. So
yeah,
really really
not
good.
going to find as many synergies with it, like summon a big fractal and fight with it as you would in the
Yeah.
normal Strixhaven draft. But it's just fine. Cheap interaction. Yeah, it's what he needs right now.
Yeah, so I mean, he might end up playing both that and Duel for Dominance, but you know, it's an upgrade over the Duel for
Got a
Dominance.
little synergy with his two circle of moon druids. They're not going to die in a fight often, but
Yeah,
yeah,
it'll fight as a 5/4 pretty good. There's a Stone Rain there, which he's teasing us with. Looks like he's going to end up on the campus. There's nothing really for him here. The Pillar Drop Warden could be a consideration, but his deck looks like it's going to be a little more assertive than to have a 1/5 value creature.
2 packs left. You want all these lands that do something because, like, you're going to be cutting a lot of your non-lands that you pick.
Yeah, like I'm looking at his 1-drop slot, and I'm thinking how many of these cards are actually going to make his final deck, and that depends on how aggressive he wants to be. But even with that said, these 1-drops aren't even that great for even an aggressive deck. So we'll see what he ends up wanting here. I could see him wanting this double strike creature here. The Twin Scroll Shaman.
Okay. Is there any buffs? Do we have any nice buffs?
Well, he has Spiked Ripsaw to start with. He has a Witch's Web. He could want it. He's going to take the land here. This is a nod to maybe ending up with a blue card he wants to throw in there. Figures none of those creatures are good enough.
Pledge Mage, not too much energy.
Yeah, hard to cast. Not again, like I mentioned before, Gruul is the deck that is least likely to have lots of spells. So there's a good lesson, but he doesn't have any learn cards, so not the best. Can take a 3/2 that gains 2 life, but he's just taking the basic Conjuration. That gains life too, so.
So if a field trip comes up, do you play it now? There were 2 field trips coming past at the start.
We'll see, I mean, he might want those effects because he's not doing much on turn 3, so ramping to the bigger stuff might be one of the better things he could do on turn 3 based on, us looking at his 3-drop slot and not being that impressed. Is this the time for a sideboard card, or?
There's a campus. There's a campus on his color.
Yeah. So the Tangle Trap will not make it into his sideboard. He's just taking the land. Don't blame him, really.
Didn't take Plummet, didn't take Candle Trap. Not Candle Trap.
Tangle Trap. Lots of traps. He didn't take the Spike Pit Trap either, so he's avoiding all of the traps. There's the field trip you mentioned. Though, with his fixers, I'm surprised he took that so quickly over the Elemental Masterpiece. He has a lot of fixing for it, and it is something to close out the game.
It is a treasure on its own.
Yeah, but he also has a lot of fixing, and particularly has like 2 lands that make blue that are in his sideboard that he could use. So, like if you look at his 6-drop / 7-drop slot, like those cards are not that great. Elemental Masterpiece is better than like any of those cards. The Earth Cult Elemental, the Wolfkin Outcast, and the Thundersteel. I think the Elemental Masterpiece is better. So a little surprised he didn't grab that there, but
speculate on Zimone. You do have free fixing at this point. 2 different cards that.
It's just like with his deck is looking to be assertive, so splashing that is a little like if his deck was trying to go a lot more late game, that would probably be something you would look to splash. But that's a hard one to splash. Wow.
The field trip's not doing the greatest work yet.
Simic is not being drafted in this pod because we see 2 premium uncommons wheel back to back pretty much. Zimone and then the Quandrix Cultivator. So just nobody is playing Simic here.
Yeah, that's true.
Of note, Simic has been one of the weaker decks that we've seen perform worse in Megadraft just because of the lack of removal. In the Megadraft, like everybody has good creatures, so you just need removal and I was going to say Quandrix, but Simic combination has traditionally been one of the hardest ones to find straight up removal in. So he's looking at this Call Time pack, Path to the World Tree there. That's a favorite of mine. Anything that says gain 2 life, draw 2 cards, make a 2/2, that makes me very happy, harkening back to Cloud Blazer. But onto the cards that he could play. There's Frostbite here as the primary red or green card. Other cards he might think of, there's the Shimmerdrift Veil for fixing. Binding the Old Gods is a pretty good card to splash. Like, it just kills anything. It gets you a land.
I see a Witherblade Campus in there.
But I think the Frostbite's just more important here than the 4-drop card. Like I said, Binding the Old Gods is, it kills anything, right? In green-red, a lot of your removal is limited by the size of what you're trying to remove. whether it's fight spells or burn spells, and that one just hits
I,
everything.
I think I might take Binding the Old Gods. He's got 2 Evolving Wilds, so it's like free. Just slap 1 Swamp in there. It's not hurting your mana base too much.
Yep. He's just gone for the Frostbite. It's cheap. If his deck is trying to be more aggro, well, here's a card he might want to splash. There's the Battle of Frost and Fire, which was a really, really good card. But again, I think he's just trying to be aggressive here. So he's not wanting to mess around with splash cards, even if they are more powerful than the other options. Looking at Struggle for Scamfar here. So another fight spell, but this one gives a +1 counter. So that's where you want to pick your fight spell. He's looking at the Battle of Frost and Fire here, which deals 4 damage to... He's got dragged to his sideboard, but he may have deeper consideration for that. I believe it deals 4 damage to every non-giant.
Okay.
And then you scry 3 on the second one, and then on the last one, I believe it's whenever you cast a 5 mana cost or higher card for the next turn, you get to draw 2, discard 1, I believe.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I just looked it up.
Yeah, so that one's really powerful. We'll see if he decides he wants to splash that.
Pick up. It's one of the few cards that get cheaper when you foretell it. Of course, foretell is worse when you have 1 foretell card in your deck, but it's not.
Yeah, but your opponents don't necessarily know what it is. He's looking at the Rootless U here, which when it dies, you can tutor up something with power or toughness 6. So in his case, looks like the only thing he can get is the Earth Cult Elemental, because the vehicle would not count. The Thundersteel Colossus is not a creature, except when it's been crewed. So,
fantastic.
If you only have one thing to get, it's not great, but he can pick up things. Call Time had a lot of big stuff, if I remember. Call Time, there's a 5/5 for 5. There's Ravenous Lindworm. There's a red 7-drop, the big giant with trample. So Call Time had, giants was sort of a theme. So there are some big creatures running around. So maybe he can find something else to go with that. But with only one target, it's worse, but card's still good.
Binding.
There's another Binding the Old Gods. There's a Squash. There's that 7-drop that I mentioned. There's a Fixer, green-red land. Look, we'll see what he decides here. If he wants to stay aggro, there's the Haste 3-drop. There's the Elderleaf Mentor. But based on his previous picks, I imagine he wants the land here. Just anything to make your mana better. I've said this before. We're just so used to playing, in draft, 9/8 mana base or 8/8 with a fixer, like an Evolving Wilds or a dual land. That is a bad mana base. That is not a good mana base. And then when you go over to 60 cards and you have 24 or 25 lands, 11 with 2 fixers, that's still very, very bad. So anything you can do to improve that is just a monumental upgrade. Whereas a lot of the time the cards that the non-land cards in these packs are not really upgrades over the cards he already has.
I was just going to say a small bonus for it being a snow land, and you have a Boreal Outrider here. It's probably not going to matter.
Yeah, the Horizon Seeker is interesting here. So that's the 3/2 that when you attack with it, you can boast and go get a basic land. I think he needs that more than he needs the Struggle, just because of the lack of 2 and 3 drops, but he's going to go for the removal here. The draft is dwindling towards its end. He has the rest of this pack and then his Zendikar Rising pack. But, the one weakness, as you can see, is the 2 and 3 drop slot for creatures. He does need to fill that out.
Yeah. A couple of those removal spells are probably not making it, so the Struggle is going to take one of their places.
Yeah, the Struggle is definitely better than some of the other ones here. So I imagine he's thinking about Frostbite here. I think the Spider would also be a consideration, the 4/2 reach, but he's just taking all the removals here. I guess he figures he'll just spend the early turns, shocking things, so to speak, with his 1 mana things, and then start sort of taking over with his 4 and 5 drops. That's looking to be the strategy rather than a early aggressive strategy.
He has the 1 snow land for the crazy 3 damage stuff.
Well, you need 3 snow permanents, I think.
Oh, three? My bad.
Yeah,
I thought it was the other.
I believe you need 3 snow permanents to then deal
Yeah.
make it a lightning bolt. So it's probably the time for him to take a creature. The Elven Bow looks pretty interesting. The Masked Vandal could also do well. So the Elven Bow is basically like a 3-drop. You pay 2 when it comes in, and you get a 1/1 attached to it. But he's going to go for the Masked Vandal here.
I'm a huge fan of Matt Vandal.
It is. It is
Yeah, it's like a
time. It is. It is. It is very much time to take a 2-drop here. So he's taken out the
it's
Wolfkin Outcast as we suspected he might earlier, because that card is not very good when you don't have a deck full of wolves.
Vandal can easily take out some bomb enchantment or something just for free.
Yeah, the people are gonna have targets. So we got a little blurry here on his screen, but I think that's an Axguard Cavalry, which can tap to give something haste. Yeah,
Okay.
we can now see it again. So that's exactly what he needs. A 2-drop. It's a 2/2. It can attack and block early, and it has a big impact late in the game. Giving stuff haste is very, very, very big. Looks like he's going for the Run Amok instead.
I would say that's strong, but he does. Yeah, I mean, low on 2 drops,
Yeah,
but
his curve doesn't seem aggressive enough to me to warrant the Run Amok, but he makes top 8 way more than any of us. So you know, I'm certain he knows what he's doing. So again, he's taking a land here over a sideboard card. Really just doesn't value the sideboard cards. Also, we get a very clear snapshot, much like we saw in the last pack that nobody's drafting green-blue. Nobody has a green-black deck here because that Binding the Old Gods came back. Pretty surprised to see that. So it looks like the green lane is kind of open here because we know nobody's playing green-black and nobody's playing green-blue. So at most, there's maybe a couple people that are playing green-white, or we suspect there might be another green-red drafter based on the card not coming back. So once again, he's taken a trick over a 2-drop, the Snakeskin Veil, nice little protection spell there, over the Guardian Gladewalker, which is a 2-drop.
2 uncommon green cards here that care about snow. Normally they're picked pretty highly in Kaldheim draft, but snow synergies.
Yeah, the Spirit of the Alderguard was a very high pick. It was a 4-mana, sometimes like an 8/4 that drew you a card when it came in. Like, just insanely high rate on that card when you had snow permanents. So he's looks like he might want this haste creature here.
I mean,
yeah. It's time for him to take a creature. All right, so now we have this big 7-drop. It's something he can go fetch with his Rootless Hue. The Cinderheart.
Yeah, it's one of the couple cards that you would see often get pulled with it.
It's rare that you find a common that is like really worth 7 mana, but that one, it does have trample.
So out of 60 cards, 11 are lands. So we're looking at cutting about 14 cards here up.
Yeah, we'll see. Like, he can't cut too many creatures, even though a lot of his creatures are a bit below average. He has a lot of spells here. So, we won't know exactly until we see his deck played what the final build will be. Now we're on to Zendikar here, a very premium black rare there that he can't take, unfortunately. Description of Room. But the Spikefield Hazard, again, anything you can do to upgrade a land is amazing. No really great creatures for his deck here, so Spikefield Hazard again. Upgrade. Look at how many cards. Look at how many lands he's upgraded here.
It's almost as if it's strong rare or land at this point as a first pick.
Yeah, he just hasn't seen the rares. Like, he got that Uvenwald Oddity passed to him in the 3rd pack, but since then really has not seen the rares that he needs to put his deck over the top as far as power level goes. I mean, he has that basic Conjuration there on 2 field trips, but I don't know how likely it is to run that package. Again, we'll see once he gets into his first round action.
Looks like he's going to be going lower on 2-drops and just try to win the mid-range game here with 4/4s, 5/5s.
Yep, that looks to be exactly what he's doing. So I wonder how many of these 1-drops he's going to end up playing. Most of them aren't very good in a vacuum, so we'll see what he wants to end up doing.
He's looking for Gruul MDFCs probably here as a prime pickup.
Yeah, the card that looks interesting to me out of this pack has to be the 1/1 Death Touch. It's if he's trying to win with his 4 and 5 drops, 1/1 Death Touch is kind of what the doctor ordered. I think he was scanning through maybe some of his creatures to see if he had party members for his bug catcher, but yeah, the 1/1 Death Touch is just if his deck wants to go late game, this is a card that gets him there. The bug catcher is really not for blocking ever, and
he took it over the 1-drop.
I
It is
imagine
aggressive.
it's going to be especially green red. You're not going to have too many rogues and clerics, so you're kind of just looking at yeah, you're kind of looking at warriors and wizards maybe in red. So that bug catcher is going to be a 2/2 pretty much all the time. Like I see Jetmir's Fixer as a warrior, but that doesn't help the bug catcher because the bug catcher already is a warrior.
You didn't want the sit back 1/1 Death Touch, I suppose.
I guess it's good with Masked Vandal. Masked Vandal is whatever you need it to be.
True. And Pack Beast, I guess, not quite changeling.
Yeah, the Pack Beast was honorary changeling for the purpose of your party deck.
I don't think Pack Beast is making this list, even if he gets one.
No, so he has taken the 1/1 Death Touch here, which I like. I liked it in the last pack too. I think having 2 of those rather than a bug catcher and 1 might be better for what his deck looks to be. But in the end, he has a vision for his deck, and it might involve a bug catcher rather than the Blight Blade that we saw.
In an hour and 20 minutes since we started this, roughly.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how he decides to build his deck, because he could try and go for the, more sort of combat tricks and the 1-drops, or he could just go for the maybe a bit more controlling and then start really making the impact plays on turn 4 and 5. Fastwood Fortification seems like a great pickup here. Just again, upgrade to a land. Just anything that makes your land slot better. It's just free cards you get to put in your deck, right? Like, the more cards you draft that end up in your deck, the better.
There's more cuts than a normal draft by far here.
Look at this. He has 11 lands here. Okay, so there's a few picks here. There's a Vine Gecko, which is effectively just going to be a 2/2 for 2. Not much kicker going on here.
This is an interesting pick.
Yeah, there's the 3-drop, the Territorial Scythe Cat. Don't think he wants that. Most of these cards are unlikely to make the cut, but we'll see what he opts to go with here.
Probably don't need a Helion, but it does reset a couple of your MDFCs.
Yeah, it could be okay.
Which are instant, so it's not even that good.
Yeah, I mean, if he thought Bud Catcher might be good the first time around, he might be wanting the second one here, which is, just as I'm saying that, he's hovering over it. Yeah, again, these are all pretty medium. Not too likely to make the deck, but Bug Catcher is what he goes with here. Well, there's a rare that could be interesting. There's the Tangle Florahedron too, which is ramp. But yeah, that rare, the Paragon. So it's 2 mana 3/2. If you pay an extra 3, you get to look at the top, I believe, 5 or 6 cards of your deck, and you can find a creature that shares a creature type with it. So it's an elf, but it's also any member of your party. So if you find any elf or any party member, which in his case is most likely just going to be warrior and maybe a couple wizards.
That card, the Pack Beast, on that 5/5 with Vigilance that gets cheaper are the 3 cards with that text, and we just saw all of them in the last.
Yeah, but it works. It works with elves. So Circle of the Moon Druid, I believe, might be. I think it's an elf. The Elegant Entourage, the 4-drop, is an elf. So he has a couple of elves that he can get with it. I would imagine he would want the Song Mad Treachery here. It's just another double face card. So all these land picks are really shoring up some of the weaknesses of the deck, which is sort of the early creatures are not that great. So these lands are making up for it, I think, in a big way.
For sure. So he has, if he's playing both Neverwinter Dryads, what's the plan? You on turn 3, you're going to be playing your Uvenwald Oddities, or
but it's like his 5 and 6 drops are like outside of the workshop war chief, they're not things you're like, you know, super, super ahead if you ramp into them. They're just like fine. Like you cast your Falcon Wrath Celebrants a turn or two early, like still just a 4/4 menace. Like I mean, it's good, but it's not like you've broken the game. So I don't know how good these Neverwinter Dryads are going to be and whether he's interested. Again, they do have quite a bit of time to build their deck. Once the draft is over, we're going to look at the draft. We're going to look at the players' pools after the draft. So we won't have time to walk through each player's draft, but we will be able to see their final pool and surmise what they're going to be playing.
Definitely some good land pickups here in the grill colors for the last pack. So he's got a cut. Let's see, a 63 non-lands.
Yeah, he's got a lot of cuts. I'm sure he'll figure out. I'm sure he has a vision in his head of what kind of finished product he wants here from his deck. He does have some ways to go here, some different directions. He could lean more mid range, or he can play all of his cheap creatures and try and be a bit more aggressive. Again, I'm sure he'll come to the correct decision once he gets into deck building. I don't think he's decided yet, because if he did, he would probably be cutting cards here as we're going through the last few picks. But he's basically put almost every viable card in his pool into this main deck right now. So I think he's not sure yet. So he just needs a little bit of time to come to the right build. And that's pretty much going to wrap. That's pretty much going to wrap up the draft. So that was Caleb's red-green deck, and we'll be back shortly looking at the players' pools.